My friend's girlfriend is accusing me of having a baby with him, which is completely absurd. Here's the situation. Back when we were teenagers, this friend had a big crush on me. Although he never admitted it, it was just obvious to everyone around. We eventually grew apart, dated other people, and moved on with our lives. He moved to another state and has been in a long-term relationship, while I've been married to my husband for almost 6 years, with 2 beautiful children and another on the way. This friend, or former friend, I should say, and I hardly talk anymore. The last time we spoke was when my youngest child was born, and he texted me congratulations. I replied with a simple thanks, and that was the extent of it. My husband knows about his past crush, and they've met because we're part of the same friend group. We've even met his girlfriend, and there's no issue there. I don't reach out to him. He's the one who initiates conversations, which are brief and superficial, like, "Hey, how are you?" And "I'm good. How about you?" I don't always reply, either. My husband's family owns a small coffee shop where I spend some afternoons waiting for my daughter to finish her activities. My mother-in-law, sister-in-law, and my 3-year-old son are often there with me. Last Friday, I was surprised to run into my former friend and his girlfriend at the coffee shop. They had rented a space for the week because he was back in town for some photography and video work. He's a visual artist. He had some team members with him, so while it was a bit awkward, it wasn't a big deal. We greeted each other briefly, but they didn't know I was pregnant, and when he saw me, he looked visibly shocked, which made me uncomfortable. He started acting nervous, and it was also the first time they had met my son. Although he didn't pay much attention to the situation, his girlfriend certainly did. Honestly, it made me feel extremely uncomfortable, especially when she kept staring at my son. It gave me chills. Even my sister-in-law noticed, without even knowing who the woman was. I was texting my husband about it and decided to leave the coffee shop. That night, my husband and I discussed it. He tried to rationalize the situation, saying it was strange, but perhaps the guy chose the coffee shop because it felt familiar. He also suggested that maybe the girlfriend wanted kids, which could explain why she was staring so much. Regardless, I decided not to go back to the shop until they left for good. They had rented the place for an entire week. My husband offered to ask his mom, who owns the shop, to kick them out, but I didn't want to affect her business. That night, the woman contacted my husband through the coffee shop's Instagram account. She sent a message around 2 or 3 a.m., asking if he was sure our son was really his. The message simply read, "Are you sure the baby is yours?" A little later, she added, "He doesn't look like you at all." It seemed like she was spiraling, convinced that my son was actually her boyfriend's. She described how our baby has curly, light hair, while her boyfriend's hair is dark and straight. My natural hair is curly and light, so it's clear that he's my child. My husband doesn't have access to the shop's Instagram account, so we were woken up the next morning by a call from my sister-in-law, informing us of the messages. My husband is completely confident I've never cheated on him, because I haven't. We weren't even in the country when our son was conceived. My husband had been sent abroad for work, and we all went with him. This whole situation is insane. The woman claimed that 3 years ago, her boyfriend traveled alone to our city, and now she thinks she understands why. Meanwhile, I've also been receiving texts from my former friend asking, if I had said anything to his girlfriend, it would be like admitting to something. But accused of what, exactly? What would I even tell her? At that point, I just handed my phone to my husband to let him handle it. Then, I started receiving nasty texts and voice messages from her, calling me horrible names. I wanted to block them both immediately, but my husband thought it would be better to keep the messages in case we needed to involve the police. My husband replied to her first message, telling her that he was 100% certain our son is his and that she should deal with her insecurities elsewhere. She asked if we had done a paternity test, and he told her we didn't need one. Now, she's demanding we do a paternity test, saying we shouldn't fear it if we have nothing to hide. Her direct messages to me have decreased, but I'm staying home with the kids because we're worried she might do something dangerous. She seems completely unhinged. They're not allowed back at the coffee shop, and my mother-in-law even refunded their money because she doesn't want any more trouble. She's furious, and I'm beyond embarrassed by this whole situation. I can't stop crying, and while I don't feel physically in danger since they don't know where we live, I'm overwhelmed with rage and frustration. I know this stress isn't good for the baby I'm carrying. This morning, my former friend called, but since my husband was still home, he answered. He said his girlfriend doesn't believe anything he says and begged us to do a paternity test just to calm her down. I've already blocked them both, but now she's using other accounts to post comments on the coffee shop's Instagram, accusing me of having an affair and saying that my baby isn't my husband's. I don't even care about making her understand anymore. I just want her to stop. Update. Things escalated quickly after our lawyer sent 2 cease and desist letters, one to his business and one from us, written by my sister-in-law's lawyer, was delivered the same day as an emergency matter. As I mentioned the comments on my last post, I knew they were staying with one of our friends. My husband met with a lawyer today who agreed to take our case and help us. He also warned my husband that the girlfriend might become even more unstable once she finds out we're taking legal action against them, and advised us to be prepared for whatever might come. Up until this point, my husband was concerned she could potentially harm our son or me, but deep down, he didn't think she was actually capable of physical harm, until now. At first, we considered having the kids and me stay locked up at home until they returned to their hometown. But then, we decided to stick to our routines, with a few minor adjustments, because our kids shouldn't have to suffer because of this woman's actions. Tuesday passed without incident, but today, while I was driving out of the garage to take our daughter to her dance lesson, the girlfriend suddenly appeared in front of my car. I nearly ran her over because I didn't see her at first. She wasn't screaming, but she kept repeating, "Stop, stop, stop." I couldn't help but scream out loud, mostly for the sake of my kids, but also out of pure shock. I froze, wondering what on earth she was doing there, and how she had figured out where we live. Our toddler didn't seem to care much, but our daughter was terrified. The girlfriend moved toward my side of the car, and it seemed like she wanted to talk, but I wasn't paying attention. I couldn't hear her either, because Moana was playing on the radio. My daughter was crying, my son was starting to panic, and all I could think of was backing up and getting out of there as fast as I could. Now, in hindsight, I'm thinking of a million things I could have done differently, but in that moment, it was complete chaos, and all I wanted to do was escape. I called the police once we were a safe distance from the house and returned a few minutes later. I was shaking. After that, I called my husband and took our daughter to the rest of her classes to keep her distracted. It worked for her, but not for me. I was still a mess. At least we were safe at the studio, surrounded by people. I reached out to our mutual friends to ask if they had given her or him our address, but everyone swore they hadn't. I believed them. Yesterday, there was a reunion we were invited to, but my husband and I didn't go since it was meant to catch up with the former friend and his girlfriend. She didn't show up, and our mutual friends told me the vibe was off. Apparently, my former friend kept asking if I was coming and didn't mention my husband. Throughout the night, he kept subtly bringing me up, only wanting to talk about this whole situation. He asked if I was angry and even suggested that everything could go back to normal if I just did the paternity test. He went so far as to insult my husband, claiming he was controlling me. Some friends said maybe they misunderstood, but they think he implied that my son could be his. I feel sick just thinking about it. Thankfully, they shut him down because he was upsetting everyone, and they told him he was being ridiculous. The reunion ended earlier than expected. Although we weren't there, I'm furious. My husband is extremely angry too, and he said that if he sees my former friend, he's going to beat him up. I'm very worried about our son now. One of my female friends told me that the girlfriend texted her during the reunion, asking if my former friend was actually there, and even requested proof, but my friend refused to send anything. I now realize that was around the same time she was messaging us on social media, insulting me and my husband. She was convinced her boyfriend was sleeping with me, which is just unbelievable. The level of disrespect is unreal. For context, at the time, I was literally in my pajamas, lounging on the sofa like a couch potato, watching TV with my husband. It was tough for him not to respond, but we're following the lawyer's advice. We're moving forward with a defamation lawsuit. It's easy to prove our son was conceived while we were out of the country, but if necessary, we're willing to do a paternity test, only if the court requests it or if it helps resolve this faster. We tried to get a protective order on Tuesday, and we'll try again tomorrow. After the girlfriend showed up at our house and we filed a police report, our lawyer is confident we'll get it as an emergency measure. Legally, she's also banned from visiting the coffee shop. We're staying at my sister-in-law's place tonight, and none of my friends know we're here. They don't even know where she lives. The kids are doing fine. They know something's going on, but they seem to be at peace. Our daughter bounced back after her dance lesson and is thrilled to have a sleepover with her cousin. Our son, on the other hand, is grumpy because he misses his own bed. I had to laugh because it's the same bed that's always a struggle to get him to sleep in. But he gets to sleep with Mom and Dad tonight, and I'm sure that'll cheer him up. I doubt I'll get much sleep, though. My husband is out installing a Ring camera at our house, just in case either of them shows up again. His dad is helping him, so at least he's not alone. I'll feel more at ease once he's back with us. We've decided that I'll stay here tomorrow with our son since I work from home anyway, and my husband will handle taking and picking up our daughter from school. Honestly, I'm not scared anymore, or at least that's what I'm telling myself. Deep down, I'm still anxious, but mostly, I'm just angry at both of them. I'm staying calm for my kids and focusing on the fact that we're safe for now. That's helping to ease my mind, and once my husband is back with us, I'll feel completely at peace. Right now, all I want to do is cry and be with him and our kids. My sister-in-law, mother-in-law, and my mom keep telling me that it's probably a release of stress, and the hormones are making it even worse for me. It's Wednesday, and they're supposed to leave by Friday or Saturday. We're not exactly sure when. Either way, just knowing they won't be physically near us anymore will be a huge relief. I just want this whole ordeal to be over.